Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Mental Matters podcast. Today, I'm doing something a little different. I decided that I'm going to do a video podcast today. And there's going to be a few cuts in this video just because I tend to pause when I speak. So to save you the time, I just make little cuts in between. So the reason I decided to accompany the podcast with a video today was because I have been in a bit of a rut in terms of my mental health, and I've been rotting in my bed in my pajamas for the past few months, and I don't remember the last time I kind of got myself together, did my hair, did my makeup, and it's a Saturday night. I'm recording now, and I'm not going anywhere, but I decided I wanted to try to, get myself together a bit, even though I'm not going anywhere, to do my hair, to do my makeup, simply for this podcast. And this podcast is giving me a reason to. Something when you're struggling so much with mental health is to really look for reasons to keep you going. And this just gave me one to take that little step to feel pretty and to feel nice. And I also just thought, in terms of engagement, I hear that people like to have videos with their podcast just to have a face to the voice. I don't know if I'll be doing it every time, but yeah, that's the reason why specifically today I want to do this. So what we're going to focus on today is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. You've probably heard of OCD, but you've heard it in a way that is kind of how it's shown on TV, or when someone says, I'm so OCD, because they like their pencils aligned and as a joke kind of thing. But obsessive compulsive disorder is a real kind of illness, and I've got it. I've got a few things, but I've got that. I was diagnosed with it in 2019 after I cold turkey stopped my medication, as I said in one of the previous episodes, while I was overseas. And in turn, because I did that, my brain made a new source of anxiety, which was the OCD. And OCD is a stem from anxiety. It's the reason people do OCD compulsions is because they're trying to manage the anxiety and they can't stop until they feel right. It's a lot about feeling, but the thing is with anxiety, the more you chase that feeling, the more set in your brain it's going to be and the harder it is to achieve. So you end up just repeating it and repeating it and repeating it and not being satisfied. And it creates this pattern of OCD and this compulsive behavior. So there are different types of OCD, what people become obsessive about. There's the most common one is cleaning kind of OCD, contamination OCD, which is the one that I have. There also is some people feel they can't move on from a task until they do something a certain amount of times. Like flick the light switch on and off 3 times, or they feel like their family is going to get in a terrible accident. And to someone without this, it sounds like, why would someone think that? What a silly thing to say. But your brain can get programmed to think the most ridiculous things. And when your brain truly believes these things will happen, your body becomes so distressed, and you become so distressed that you don't know what else to do except to follow it. No matter how delusional or how irrational these thoughts might be, you're so compelled to do it because it brings you so much discomfort and anxiety to not do it. So to be able to sleep in peace or to move on, you have to do that ritual that keeps you stuck and doesn't usually benefit you or anyone in any way. And you want to stop and move on, but it just gets harder and harder and harder. And once you create a pattern, it's very difficult to break. In my personal experience, my contamination OCD kind of crept up on me over like the course of a year. It started when I was in about year 11, and it started with me just sanitizing my phone after I came back from school. And then I would come home and I would start sanitizing my books when I came from school. And then I'm not allowed to sit on my bed after I come home from school because I'm dirty. Only after my shower can I do that. And it just kept escalating and escalating. And I thought nothing was wrong with these things. And there is nothing wrong with these things. They're, cautionary things, but it's when it gets to a level that if you don't do these things, then you feel like the world's going to end. Then that's when it becomes a crippling and dangerous thing for yourself. And then it went to, I have to wash my hands for this amount of time. And then I felt after a while that wasn't cutting it anymore, so I had to extend it. And then it just went straight to, I'll wash my hands until I feel right. Because in the middle of washing my hands, I would doubt that I'm washing my hands. It makes no absolute sense. But in my mind, I thought, and I still struggle with this, and I think I would doubt whether I had gone downstairs and touched raw chicken or something while I was washing my hands, and I just didn't remember it. OCD is fueled on doubt, and the second you start doubting things, you go down this deep, dark tunnel of compulsions and rituals. So I would end up in the bathroom washing my hands for 30 minutes before I felt satisfied to go into my bed, because my bedroom was my safe zone. It had to be the cleanest room. I had no control over anywhere else of the house except my bedroom. And that's, OCD is about control. And the thing is, you can never really achieve it, because you can't achieve control in this world, because there's too many things that's controlled by external factors and you can't do anything about it. So when you're chasing this need for control, you'll never achieve it, and you get stuck in this cycle of trying to, but never actually reaching it. And it's just a dark cloud that gets bigger and bigger in your head. And keep in mind, even when the peak of my OCD started during COVID time. So even though it was just the little things at the time of just disinfecting my phone when I got home, and my books, or not sitting on my bed, that's when COVID happened, and there were signs everywhere like wash your hands, and you're going to get contaminated and all of this. And that really fueled my need to sanitize and wash my hands and do all of these things that I was doing in a dangerous capacity for myself, because my hands, by the end of that kind of period, from how much I was washing it, because not only was I doing it half an hour, like once a day, it would happen multiple times a day, where I would get stuck in front of my sink and feel truly to my core that my hands weren't clean. And my hands were broken out in red, raw rash, because you've got natural oils in your hands and you're stripping them every time you add. And I would use antibacterial soap, which is like extra stripping. So I would wash and wash and wash till my hands bled. And then again, that would fuel the cycle. So I felt like my hands were really not clean now because they were raw and bleeding. So it just kept going. So this was just another way that the anxiety was manifesting itself. So I wasn't getting panic attacks and stuff anymore, but now I was having these urges to wash and disinfect, and that's how my anxiety was outletting itself. So I thought I was cured in the sense of my anxiety with the physical stuff like the breathing and the shaking and all of that, but it ended up outletting itself in a different way. The hardest thing about OCD is that people have a natural intuition to trust their gut. And when someone needs to make a decision, they say trust your gut, because you should be able to trust yourself in order to make the right decision for yourself. But with OCD, because the foundation of the disorder is doubt, you're not able to trust your gut. So when I'm washing my hands and I say, like, they're clean, you can stop now, that little voice in my head is saying, no, they're actually not clean. What if you just don't remember getting your hands dirty again? And it's such a mind-boggling thing, because the whole point of OCD is its irrational fears. So to someone listening to this that hasn't experienced it, it sounds like, what is going through this person's brain? Why do they believe that? People with OCD know it's irrational, but they're too scared of the consequences to stop. So they'd rather put themselves at risk and uncomfortable than to be wrong, because the consequences are too severe to them. It takes so much energy to combat, because you can't feel at peace until you've done all these things. Like, I used to have to wash my hair every single day of the week. Any girl listening to this knows, like, that's a lot, especially when you have long hair. You're supposed to wash it like every 3 to 4 days. And I was washing it every single day of the week, because I was so sure that there were germs in my hair and I didn't want to bring them to my bed and to my bedroom, which was exhausting. It didn't matter whether I would get home at 3 a.m. from the pub or something, I would wash my hair. And again, all this water that I'm adding to my hands would just get more raw, more red, and my hair would get damaged because I would sleep with it wet because I didn't have time to dry it. And it's very mentally taxing, especially trying to do these rituals in front of other people, like washing your hands in front of other people when you're counting and all that, and they look at you like you're crazy, and you feel crazy, but you'd rather feel safe and be crazy. OCD is chasing certainty in an uncertain world. So it's a never-ending game, and the only way to really overcome it is, obviously there's medication to help, but the only way to overcome OCD is to expose yourself to not doing the compulsions that you do to feel comfortable. And it's a really hard thing to do, especially because you've practiced those routines and habits over months and years, and it's really hard to break patterns that you've made over time. So what you have to do is, don't go into it right away. Don't just say, I'm just not going to do any compulsion, because then you'll end up spiraling and you'll end up doing double the amount of compulsions to make up for what you've missed, which is what I've experienced. So one day I was like, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And, I didn't wash my hands before getting in my bed, or I played with the dog and let him like jump all over my pajamas before I got in my bed. And as a result, the next day I woke up and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm too anxious. My room is contaminated. Everything is contaminated. So I spent the whole next day disinfecting every little piece, changing my sheets, going into a hole, basically just digging myself a deeper hole. So what you would do is, first you would delay a compulsion. So say you feel like you touched something dirty, instead of going straight into that compulsion, sit with the anxiety and the discomfort for a solid, 30 seconds, and then maybe go to a minute. And if you're able, go to 5 minutes. So what you're doing by doing that is saying that I can handle this feeling of uncertainty and I can be uncomfortable. And slowly it teaches your brain that, do you know what, maybe the things I'm doing isn't very realistic and isn't actually accomplishing anything or isn't protecting me. And then what you would do is start shortening your compulsions. So if washing your hands for 10 minutes, then you would go to 8 minutes, or you would have a little timer, and then you would say, once it hits 5 minutes, we're going to stop. And that's the hardest part, is to be like, I'm going to stop, because your gut is saying, keep going. And that little voice in your head is saying, keep going. but you just have to stop and sit with that discomfort. You're not going to be satisfied. You're going to be very anxious, but you have to do it enough to the point where your brain recognizes, look, I did that and nothing happened. So maybe I shouldn't fear this thing. And when you're ready, you can start eliminating compulsions altogether. To help with my kind of hand washing, I got this little timer. It's a little kids timer to encourage kids to wash their hands for the right amount of time. So it just goes like on your mirror. You don't touch it, so you just wave your hand in front of it. It's like sensor oriented. So I've got this timer because it helps me figure out when to stop, because again, that little voice in my head really likes to prolong it and makes me doubt it. So I have something that tells me that's enough, your hands are clean. And sometimes I do, not listen to it, or I have to do it again. But it's a good guide to have when you're struggling with your internal monologue to say stop. So something external is telling you to stop. So it's better than, having someone stand by you and say, you've washed your hands enough every time you've washed your hands. So it was only like $30. It's for children, but it works great for me, and it really helps keep your time down, and obviously keep your hands not red and raw from washing, because that's not helping you, that's not helping anybody. So OCD is a very energy consuming and crippling illness, and it infuriates a lot of people, including myself, when people say, and again, they don't mean it with ill intentions. It's just something that's been normalized, like in our culture and our media, when people say, oh, I'm so OCD, because they see a pen out of place and they want to put it in place to make it in a row. It's not their fault. It's something that has been normalized, but it's starting to become recognized as a real issue, because it really takes a toll, both mentally and physically. So just keep in mind, next time like you feel the urge to say that, just keep in mind that that's not like the best thing to say. Especially you don't want to say it in front of someone with it, because I've had a few people say it in front of me. Sometimes like I'll look at them and they'll be like, oh, okay, my bad. But sometimes I'll keep my mouth quiet. I'll keep my mouth shut. But again, it's not an ill intention thing, and it's not like, I feel like people are going to say, oh, you're so woke, like go cry about it. Like I'm not, if someone says it in front of me, I'm not going to cry. It doesn't offend me. It's just something to consider thinking about, that if someone's suffering, like it's just best not to make a joke out of it. After a while, it becomes like a instinct to do these compulsions. Just like how a normal person, I'm going to use chicken as an example just because raw chicken grosses me the hell out. So if someone touches raw chicken, their immediate thought is, I'm going to go wash my hands. I'm going to go wash up. And they don't think twice about doing it. But when you have OCD, even when you're not sure that you've touched something dirty, you feel that urge to wash. It's like that instinct that someone has to wash their hands after they know they've touched something dirty. That's how, someone with contamination OCD, someone like me, feels like a lot of the time, even though they don't actually have to touch something dirty. But they get that wave of anxiety in their chest, in their body, and then that automatically links to, did I touch something dirty? Is that why I feel this way? Oh, I need to wash my hands then. And then you wash your hands in an attempt to get rid of that anxious feeling, and that creates a dangerous loop. And you don't have to have OCD to have kind of doubts and all that and check things, but people can get like OCD tendencies, and it's very normal, just like people get anxious and they might not have, a full-blown anxiety disorder, but you can get anxious sometimes because it's very normal. The thing that makes it a disorder is doing it out of proportion and it affecting your everyday life. And, people have OCD tendencies like, really doubting whether they left their straightener on because they scared the house was going to burn down, which is a very rational thought. But, when you're turning back halfway through driving, 5 times in a row because you doubt whether you've turned your hair straightener on or off, that's when it becomes a problem because it's getting in the way of your life. It becomes a problem when you start doubting reality and you struggle to tell the difference between what if this happens and what is happening. And what if is a big part of anxiety and OCD because it's just thinking about the situation that could occur in the future that you have no way of knowing, but you'll still obsess over it. And that is what makes you ill because no one can know the future. So you're constantly looking for this answer that you're never going to get, and you're stuck in this cycle. So that was my talk on OCD today, with a mix about my personal experiences, what I've found has helped me. Take it as advice you can try to use if you're struggling with the same kind of thing. And just, whoever's out there that has listened to this and, would sometimes say, oh, I'm so OCD, just have a little think about like what I've said, not in a mean way at all. Just in a, do you know what? I didn't think about it like that. Like, I'll take that on board. Just because it'll help out a lot of people. And if you notice someone doing these tendencies, you can always kind of reach out, not, full on tell them that, you've got OCD because you do this, but it's good to make someone a little bit aware of what they're doing before it becomes into a bad habit. So if you see someone, sanitizing a lot to the point where their hands are getting, a little raw, you can have a chat to them and be like, hey, let's try these methods to not do it as much, but keep ourselves healthy. And it was really fun doing this video kind of podcast because it, again, gave me a reason to get myself together, get myself feeling cute, looking pretty, and getting to share and spread awareness at the same time, which is my number one goal out of this. And I really hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast and watching as much as I loved recording it. Thanks.